Hello everyone, this is John Galt speaking, here with a tutorial video about using the Teams and Class Select template that I currently have on the UE4 Marketplace for $5.99. So there's already overview videos that exist for this, but just a quick TLDR here is this contains a little menu system where you can host up listen servers and join listen servers, and it gives you the ability to pick different classes, and it's team based, and there's stations in here that you can go into and pick different classes. And so this is meant to be a demonstration of how you could set up team play, Steam, hosting and joining listen servers, and a character station which can be interacted with to bring a menu up that then can change your class to give you a different looking mesh and a couple other things, right? So this video is probably going to be fairly in depth. Hopefully this will all make sense to you guys once you see this in action. So I guess to begin with, I would like to say that even though this is $5.99, what it actually does is pretty neat, if I do say so myself. It gives you the ability to create games of the type that, you guys have all played these type games where you have different classes, right? You have snipers, melee assassins, heavy gunners, dreadnoughts, all that kind of stuff. And with it being team based, right? So the way I set this up is so that you can have different factions, right? So don't think of it so much as teams, but think of it more as factions. So what that essentially means is that you could set your red team up to be like the Germans, and you could set the blue team up to be like the Allied. And not only would you be able to create classes in those, you would also have the ability to have them visually look different. So in other words, you could make the German sniper look like a German sniper and use German meshes as his weapon representation. And then the Allied counterpart can look like an Allied sniper with Allied weaponry. And so that's the real gist of this template and why it's set up the way that it is. So what I've done here is this is a bone stock template, right? This is the way that it comes off the UE4 Marketplace when you purchase it. And what I have done is I have added a bunch of asset packs that really just consist of characters. The one thing that I want to mention here is that, to my knowledge, I don't know this to be 100% fact because it's been a while since I messed with these. The idea here is that, generally speaking, you really only need one skeleton asset and one physics asset in your project, regardless of how many characters you use. But the catch to that is they all have to be compliant with the UE4 skeleton hierarchy. Now, that don't mean necessarily that they have to be exactly the same size. It just means that the skeleton hierarchy, the way the bones are named, the way they're listed, the way they're parented, need to be compatible with each other. And so that makes it where you don't have to maintain all these separate animation sets. You don't have to maintain all these separate animation blueprints and all that stuff. So to my knowledge, all the characters that I put in here are all compliant with the default UE4 skeleton hierarchy. However, each one of these packs come with their own skeleton and their own physics asset. So what I want to do in this video, guys, is basically two things, right? So one, I want to show you guys how to take all these different characters that are compliant with the default UE4 skeleton, remove all the skeletons and physics assets, except for the one that comes in this template, right? Because this is all based on the default UE4 skeleton. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start that process. So just so that we're not staring at a black screen here, what I want to do is just open up the map here, just so that you guys have something to look at while I'm doing this. So I put an extremely large amount of characters in here because I really want to demonstrate the power of this little $5.99 template. So I guess we'll start with, so this template comes with some placeholder Infinity Blade characters. Now they're only in here as placeholder basically to try to get across the point of what this template can do, which really, it's not a good representation, honestly. But I had to only put free assets in this template because I'm not modeling characters to put in this template to demonstrate it. What you guys are getting with this is the mechanics that drive all this stuff, not necessarily the assets. So I guess to make things move along, I'm going to take this product here called Sci-Fi Armors Pack Full. And inside here, you can see that there are a lot of different skeletal meshes and a lot of different skeletal physics assets. But you also see that it includes a UE4 mannequin, right? And since this project, this template already contains a mannequin, same exact mannequin, same exact skeleton, same exact physics asset, we need to tell all these meshes here to use that asset instead of the one that this template came with. So what I'm going to start out with doing is literally taking this demo folder here, and I'm going to delete the whole entire folder. And it's going to tell me that, hey, don't do that. Well, we're going to do it anyway because we're smart and we know what we're doing here, right? So I'm literally going to force delete every single bit of that. And it'll probably take it a moment here. And there it goes, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is go into this meshes folder, and I'm going to select every single one of these physics assets, not the skeletal mesh, but just the physics asset for each one of these. And I'm going to right click and delete all of those physics assets as well. So give my computer a moment to not have a stroke. And we're going to force delete every single one of those as well. Now, this is a bit complicated because I put so many different characters in here to demonstrate this. So now essentially what we have to do is take all these skeletal meshes, right click, and we need to assign it to use the default UE4 skeleton that comes in this project. Now keep in mind there's still a lot of extra skeletons in here because each one of these asset packs comes with a UE4 skeleton, I believe. So when we do this, it's going to be important that we make sure we're telling it to use the one that comes in this project, not any of the other ones. So we come up here to skeleton and we click assign skeleton. And basically we need to look through here to find the one that came in this template. And I can tell you guys that it's this one, right? Because it says MP teams and class select. So I know that that is the correct skeleton. So we're going to go ahead and accept here, and we're going to have to do this for each one of those skeletal mesh assets, right? So there's quite a few of them. So give me a moment here to bounce through all these. I probably shouldn't have put all these characters in here at the same time, but I didn't want you guys to have to sit while it was putting them in. So, okay, so now we have them all assigned, and I'm going to do a big fat save all here. Now, the next thing we need to do is also make sure that we assign the physics asset that comes in this template to these as well. So we're going to use a different tactic here. We're going to select them all again, but this time we're going to go to asset actions, and we're going to say bulk edit via property matrix. And then underneath the physics section here, we're going to hit this little pick asset box here, and we're going to make sure that we get the physics asset that comes in this template, right? So once again, this is a little convoluted here because I put so much stuff in here. So let's look through here, and maybe we can find the correct one, right? So if you hover over it, you can see that the path for this is MP Teams and Class Select. So that is the one. Then we're going to come over here and hit save. And we'll give it a moment here. And now we have successfully reassigned all these characters to use the skeleton and the physics asset that comes in this project, which means it'll be able to use the animation blueprint, the blend spaces, and all that stuff. Which really, this doesn't have a very complicated player controller, really, because it's meant to be simple, right? You guys build your own combat systems and stuff on top of this. So now that we've did all that, now all we have to do is assign which team is going to use what meshes, right? So in the Teams and Class Select template folder, right? So you guys won't have as much of this junk in here as I do. We go into the blueprints, under the characters blueprints, into the character master blueprint. And on the event begin play, I believe that's where I did this. Yeah, it's right here. So on the event begin play, right? So I intentionally didn't cram all this stuff into functions so it's easier for you guys to find when you buy this template. You can follow the breadcrumbs. So on the event begin play, the part that's relevant to what we're doing is right here in this select nodes. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to replace the meshes that are listed in here, which is the Infinity Blade placeholder meshes, with the exact meshes that we want to use. So what we're going to do is for the red team, so you guys can see that this is checking to see if this is the red team. So if this is true, that means all these right here, these are the meshes that are used for the red team. So we're going to go through here and we're going to assign those sci-fi characters. Wow, I should have never put all this stuff in here. You know what? It might actually be easier if we just restore this down and then we just go into the folder and do the whole hit the little arrow to select it thing, right? Because there's so much junk in here, it's kind of hard for me to pick through. I should have never did that. So let's go back into the sci-fi armors pack, and we're just going to assign some, right? So for now, we're just going to pick them in order. Hit the little arrow to select it, and then we'll pick the one beside it, and we'll use that, and then we'll pick that one, and we'll pick that one. And we'll pick that one. Okay. And then we simply compile this and save it. So now when we spawn in here on the red team, you will see that we are now a completely different character than the Infinity Blade stuff. Okay. And let me go ahead and switch teams here just to demonstrate this. So you guys see that this is actually a female sci-fi armor character. And I am a assault. So if I change over to the blue team, it'll kill me off this team, and then I'll respawn on the blue team, and you're going to notice that it's not that girl mesh anymore, right? Even though I'm still an assault class, it's using a completely different mesh, right? Still an assault, but I'm a blue team assault, not a red team. And then, of course, if I go back over to the red team, it will put me in that female character again. Okay, and then also just quickly to run through this, let me go ahead and pick a biotech, and you'll see that it'll put me as one of those sci-fi character biotech meshes, Dreadnought, and you see that I'm a Dreadnought, and that's as far as we're going to go. Now, this is something that Epic Games requires content creators to do when you're doing team-based stuff, which is you make the mesh display for the color of the team that you're on. Well, in this instance here, we're beyond this whole placeholder Epic Games requirement stuff. So the reason that this character is red and it's not displaying his texture is because of some scripting that was required for me to put in here in the character master blueprint. So to turn off that red crap, you go into the master character blueprint, and let's see, where is that? That would be, I believe it's in the construction script. Yeah. So in the construction script, let me just unhook this here. And let's see if when I spawn in here now, it's actually giving me the texture and not the stupid red color. And as you can see, it is. It obviously is. But now here's the thing. Now it broke it, right? So when I go over to the blue side, it's going to spawn me probably as a black character, right? A completely solidly black character. So this is kind of an all for nothing thing. So essentially what happened here is, once again, this is something that Epic requires us to do. I wouldn't have done this. They made me do it. But now by disabling the construction script logic, we can now get it to actually display the correct textures for these sci-fi characters that we're using. So I'll just quickly switch over to the engineer, and you guys can see that that now does function correctly. Okay, so now at this point here, yes, it's going to throw all these errors, and the reason is because we disconnected all this. So in the event graph, let's see, where did I actually do that? It's probably where it's referencing those colors and stuff. So that's the class icon. See, Epic Games causes us to have to complicate things that really shouldn't be complicated, right? I should have never had to put that in here, but it's their marketplace, it's their rules, right? So we're getting these errors here because I'm trying to change the color of this character, and I disconnected it all in the construction script. So I need to find where I'm changing the color based on the team. So that would be probably on rep local team. I'm guessing that's where it's at. So this is changing the color and opacity. That's not it. It's right here. Right. So it's this, I believe it's this piece right here. So in the on rep local team, if we just hop over this and skip this, I think that might cure that error. Right. So let me just go ahead and pop back in here real quick, and then we will escape. And I see that the error is gone. That don't mean that it's actually gone, but for now, that solved that a problem, okay? It's a shame you have to buy these templates and undo stuff because of their requirements. That's kind of janky to me. But anyway, so at this point here, now what we've done essentially is we've set the red team up to be all these sci-fi characters. And once again, we can go in here. There's a bunch of them in here. You know, in this pack that I bought from the marketplace, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So technically we could assign these remaining ones to use the blue team. But since the goal of this is to demonstrate, you know, Germans versus Americans, boys versus girls, humans versus aliens, right? We're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go through that process of assigning the single skeleton to some of these other assets that I have in here, and we'll break that apart and use it on the blue team. So let's see here. So I have an alien character in here, right? This dude here. So why don't we make the blue team, at least one of the blue team, be this alien dude, right? So the process is the same. We need to get rid of the skeleton that this asset came with, as well as the physics asset. So we're going to delete this, and we're going to force delete it. And once again, guys, these asset packs that I just threw in here, they come with all kinds of crap. Like all this demo stuff, you would get rid of all that crap. So now that we did that, we need to take that alien, right-click, skeleton, assign skeleton. We need to make sure we're using the correct UE4 mannequin skeleton. If you have more than one, make sure you're picking the one that's in this template here. And we hit accept. And then we basically just need to assign the physics asset. So we come in to the skeleton here under asset details, and then right here for the physics, we need to just make sure we're picking the correct UE4 mannequin physics asset that come in this project. And then we save it. And now we have another character at our disposal that we can use as a blue character. So in the teams and class select here, back in the blueprints, in the characters folder, in the blueprints, under the masters, we open up the character master. You guys remember where this is at? On event begin play, right? What we're looking for is this section right here. See, we already assigned all the red characters, meshes. So right here, we're going to change this over to the alien, right? So once again, you might want to do this deal here so that you can actually just pick it. So we will do that, right? So I'm just going to make this be the blue assault. We'll use this alien soldier. And so now if I pick the blue team and I pick an assault, bam, you see I'm this alien soldier. But if I change to the red team, still an assault class, the icon and everything is going to be the same, but now I will be that sci-fi female soldier. So now you guys should hopefully now understand what the gist of this is. So now essentially what we would do is just find us another character that we want to use as another blue team. Right now, you can mix and match these. You can make Germans versus allies. You could make humans versus aliens. You could make sci-fi versus non-sci-fi. You could make boy soldiers versus girl soldiers. So the class will still be the same. It will just pick the correct visual of that character based on what team you are, based on what class you are. So you can have unique meshes to represent each class. So your as an example, your Dreadnought could be a big, fat, dumpy, heavy character, and you could make your Recon be a slender, skinny female, right? And then you could make them have another team counterpart, still be a Dreadnought and a Sniper, but you can make it be a big ogre-looking character as the Dreadnought on the opposite team, and you could make the female Sniper. You could make it be some kind of skinny alien type character. Okay, so I know you guys get the point here, the gist of this. So now we're going to take this humanoid mech and we're going to give him the same treatment. I don't think this one is actually on the default skeleton. Well, it kind of is, but this is one that was out of order and I've corrected this. I have a version of this that I fixed, but this one is not fixed, so hopefully this won't blow up my face. But we're going to delete the physics asset, the skeleton, and the stupid retarget pose thing here. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And then it's the same process, right? So we will right-click, skeleton, assign skeleton, make sure we're picking the right one. And we say OK. And then we need to assign the correct physics asset. So under asset details, under the physics section here, we make sure we're using the correct mannequin asset. And then we go back into the character master blueprint here. Damn it, I go in that folder every time. So blueprints, masters, the character master. And now we just simply need to assign that mesh to use this one, right? So we will pick that mesh and then we will hit the little arrow icon. And now we have a completely different mesh for the blue team biotech class. Bam. So now he's the robot dude. And then if we come over here to this station and we go back to the assault, bam, we're the alien dude. And then if we switch over to the red team, it'll give us our other meshes and we can go in there and flip through all the different characters on this one, right? So we'll pick an engineer and you can see that guy's different than this guy, right? So there you go, guys. I mean, that's kind of what the point of this template is. And I'm not going to go any further with that. I'm sure you guys get the point now. Okay, so the icons that represent these characters can also be changed. The names of the characters can be changed. So all this stuff's built to be editable, edited by guys. And so I'll just quickly show you guys some of that stuff. I really wish I had a vanilla project here, but since I don't. Oh, and by the way, too, just as a besides the point, this is not just changing the mesh of the character, right? So there's been some questions about people that were interested in buying this template. Well, all you're doing is changing the mesh. What do you mean it's a different class? Well, here's what I mean. So if we go into the teams and class select, under the characters folder, under the blueprints, you guys see that everything in here does originate from this master character. So in other words, the master character is a blueprint that is a blank, right? Like there's nothing in here except for all the components and the logic that is needed to achieve everything that you guys see in this template. So then to make your classes, you create child blueprints of this master class, right? So you right click and you literally do create child blueprint class. And then what that gives you is these, right? So every single one of these is a child blueprint of that master blueprint. And so inside the child blueprint, this is where you guys have access to, the characteristics of the character, right? So as an example, we'll go ahead and open the full blueprint editor here. So if you want this class, the assault class, to move slower, you simply come into the assault class and you change its movement speed. If you want to change the name and you don't want this to be called an assault anymore, you simply come in here and change the name of the class that you want it to be. Also, you can plug in your icon that represents this character. You could give it different health values. You can make it carry different weapon loadouts. So that's what I mean when I say these originate as a master character, but you can take these classes and customize them to actually be a different class. Not only will they look different, you can make them have different health values, different weapon loadouts, different movement speeds, different movement styles. For example, you could make one be a flying character if you want to. So I just want to point that out because it's not just changing the mesh. You are actually getting spawned a completely different child blueprint based on the class that you are, and that is what's changing the looks and the characteristics of the class. You could even go further than this, and you could say the red team assault has different statistics than the blue team assault, right? Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, but a lot of this is done in the master character. So if you guys want to take the child blueprints and customize them further, you can do overrides in here to change things that you don't want to be the same as the master. But the master character is the one that's really doing a lot of the things that you guys see it doing, right? So it's the one that's setting the mesh of the character. It's the one that's setting the class icon of the character. So currently it's all done either here, right here on event begin play. It's either on, it could be in on rep local team. The player name is being set in here. And so the class icons, where are those being set? I think I'm passing that through right here, right? So set class icon, I'm actually doing it in here. If you don't want to do it in here, I'm doing it based on the class that you pick, right? And it's also what's setting the name currently. So this is in here to automate the process of creating child blueprints. If you guys don't want that, you can come in here and disconnect this stuff, and then you can just set it in the child blueprint, right? To display what icon you want and stuff. So right here, it's picking the icon, which is a texture, based on the class that the character is, and it's setting that icon reference, which then is what trickles it into the UI and stuff, right? So this icon that's being displayed in that name, that's coming based on the class that you pick, and then in the player list, that's also where that icon is coming from. So that's where you guys would edit that if you want to change it. Right now, it's automated, and personally, it's better that way. You do things in the child blueprint, and it automatically does it on both teams. You don't have to go in there and do them individually, right? So it saves a lot of repetitiveness. Okay, and so that's pretty much it, right? So the game instance, I think we should probably talk about this. See, these templates that I build are meant to conform with each other, so a lot of this stuff is redundant. If you watch the Capture the Flag video, a lot of the information contained in there is also applicable to this template, with the exception of the things that are different, which this is teams in class select, no Capture the Flag, and the other one's Capture the Flag, but with no class select, still team-based. So any of you guys that own this template, I would highly advise you go watch the Capture the Flag one too, because I might have talked about something in there that I didn't necessarily talk about in here, but they both are the same. Particularly the packaging and testing process. Those are literally identical. So I'm not going to talk a whole heap about the maps and editing these maps because it's contained in that video, but I'll try to give you guys a little TLDR here. So there's nothing in the level blueprints of any of these test levels that I provided in here. So this match timer, I guess let's just start with that. So there's no way in this template to score. Even though the logic is ready for you guys to add things to increase the score based on the team, there is no way to score in here. And that timer that goes through here, just as a quick talk about what happens here, when that timer hits 0, if you're in a standalone or a packaged build, when that timer hits 0, it looks at the red team and the blue team score, and whichever one is the higher of the two, it will pop a screen up and declare that team the victor. Then it will cycle to the next map. And the process is the same on the next map. So if you're on map 1, when the timer hits 0, it's going to take you to map 2. When map 2's timer hits 0, it takes you back to map 1. So they just basically flip-flop. And once again, there's no way to score, but if you did add a way to score, it would actually, if you, whatever you set your score to be to end the match, then it will declare the victor, and then it will do the same thing. It'll just cycle the map. Okay? So none of these level blueprints have anything in there. And the reason that I mention this is because a lot of people put menu UI stuff in the level blueprint, and also interaction with objects in the level and all that stuff. That's an ultimate no-no. You shouldn't be doing that, and I don't. So none of these level blueprints have anything in them, with the exception of one. And this is an important one, and I want to point this out to you guys. So the main menu that comes included in this template here, there is some logic in the level blueprint, which is this. It's literally that. And all that does is open the main menu for you to host and join games and all that stuff. And that is actually done in the game instance. So if you double click this, that will take you into the game instance. And most of this stuff in the game instance is to do with the menu. But there are some things in here that you can set and change. Once again, guys, go watch the Capture the Flag video, even if you don't own it, because I don't want to just keep repeating myself and repeating myself and repeating myself and repeating myself. It's a big, ginormous task to modify this stuff if the TLDR of it is. But this, in the game instance, is a combination of the game instance and the actual UI to modify what map you start on, how many players you're allowed. This is the default settings. So if you don't touch any of the buttons in the menu, this is where that information comes from. Then in the widget, in the widget, the server settings widget here, this is basically what that controls, right? So if you want to change the name of this map, you have to make some modifications in several different places. One of them would be right here. You select the drop down, you would change this to display the actual name of your map. Then under the default options here, you would have to make sure that this actually has the correct name of the map. And the same is true for the max players, right? If you want this to display 10 instead of 4, you put 10 in here. And if you want these options that you can select to be different, you change them here. And the same for the timer, right? So changing it here, then in the game instance, you would want to change that as well. And then I'll show you guys the final place. So in the game instance, right here, you would change that. So in other words, if you make your default be 10 players and you make it display 10 players, you need to change this value here to 10. If you change the name of the map, you need to change it in the menu so that it displays the name correctly. You need to change it in the choices that can be made so that it gets the correct name. And then you need to change it right here to make it be the correct map name. And then the same is true for the match timer. Okay. Now, the final thing to mention about the map here is the scoring system and the map travel. So in the game state blueprint, this is what controls that timer that you guys see in the level. So right here is where you would call if you want to start adding a scoring system. You make you a object that you put in your level that gives you a score. You call from the game state, you call add score. Then it will look at the team or whatever, and that's where it calculates the score and the winner, right? So when I said the logic's in here for scoring, this is what I mean. It's in here. It's just there's nothing to score with, right? This is something that was in the capture the flag template. Instead of deleting it and get rid of it, I just left it in here. So you would create some object, a coin. You would pick the coin up, and if it's the blue team, right, based on the team, if it's the red team, it will add 1 to the score. And if you want to change the value that it adds, you change it right here, right? So there you go. And then this is what does the calculations when the timer ends. And then the map travel, the final thing I want to mention about the map travel, if you go to changing the names of the maps and all that stuff, you've got to change that name here. And you've also got to change that name here, because that's what opens the next map. So essentially it looks if you're on test map 1, if you are, it takes you to test map 2. And so on and so forth. Sorry, I got distracted there for a second. Okay, so now we're going to talk about setting the map up. So if all this sounds utterly confusing to you guys, you know, I can't sit here and give away everything about how these templates work. Otherwise, there's not much point in buying them. So let me give you guys the same advice I gave in that capture the flag video, which you guys should watch. If you don't own that template, it doesn't matter. Go watch the video anyway. Because all my templates are meant to conform and be very similar to each other. So when you get certain information about one of the templates, that can also transfer over to another one of the templates. So here's my suggestion to you guys if that's all utterly confusing. If you guys don't want to deal with any of that, but you want to have your own map, open up the test level 1, delete everything in here. See, all that's in here really is just a bunch of placeholder junk and a terrain, right? So this is a completely blank terrain that's flat, ready to be sculpted on, right? So you guys can pick the sculpting tool here and you can commence to sculpting your level, right? If you guys want to. And then of course, assign your materials and all that stuff. So let me undo all that. And then basically just delete everything. I'm going to show you guys how to set a map up here. So delete everything that's in here except for what you want to keep, which would be the terrain, the light map, the dominant directional light and all that stuff. So you could literally select the BP character station and scroll down through this in your world outliner all the way to here and hit the delete key, right? And then you don't need any of these text renders, right? So you can go ahead and just delete all that stuff. Get rid of all that. And then you can get rid of these team starts here. And now you have a blank map, right? So the only thing that's left in here is the dominant directional light, the skylight, atmospheric fog, the light mass importance volume, and the character indirect detail volume. So let me go ahead and just build the lighting here to get rid of the black stuff, the black shadows here. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. And then I'll show you guys quickly how to set up a level using this asset pack, this template that I have here. Okay, so let's pretend for a moment in the land of make-believe where John Galt lives that we increase the size of our light mass importance volumes and all that. We sculpted us some nice terrain. We put trees and whales and snails and rocks and built buildings and structures. And we have this big, humongous, snazzy map, right? So now at this point, if you were to try to spawn in here, it ain't going to do a goddamn thing except throw you through the floor, probably. Right? So there you go. That's exactly what it does. So to construct your map, after you figure out that that is an epic fail, let me get back up here above the terrain. Okay, so all you have to do is start assembling your map. Now, that little lobby area, I talk about that in the overview. That you do have to have that in your level. Wherever you put that is up to you. Build you a bunker under the ground. That the only thing that's important about the lobby is to remember that you need to make it so the only way you can get in there or out of there is by using the menu in this game. You wouldn't want players to be able to just walk in and out. Because if you put combat in, that lobby team is looked at like a third team. Meaning the red team and the blue team will be able to kill everybody in the lobby, and everybody in the lobby will be able to get out and kill everybody on the red team and the blue team. And if that's what you want, cool. You can have three teams. But the purpose that I use that for is just a little area out of the way that players can go hang out at if they don't want to play, right? And, you know, you make you a little pub or something, put some music playing and just let them be in there, but they can't shoot or hurt each other while they're in there, right? So you would disable your combat system if you happen to be on the lobby team. Okay, all right. So with that, now we're going to build the level. This is stupidly quick and easy, guys. So we're about to the end of this equation here. So in the Teams and Class Select template folder, remember all this other shit won't be in here. That's just crap I added to do this demonstration here. You go into the gameplay and you got to have team starts, right? So you pull this into your level. This one is going to be my lobby, right? So pretend for a moment I built me an area. The only way in and out of is the menu. I'm going to set me out quite a few of these little lobby points, wherever you want them in your lobby, right? Anywhere in the lobby you want them. And then you say, okay, this side of the map is going to be the red side, right? So you drag in that same exact player start and you position it. And then once you got it where you want it, you look in the details section and you change it from lobby team to red team. And then you just drag these out all around the area that you want to designate as your red team. Okay? However many of them you want, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Then you pick you a blue area, right? So you say, okay, that's the red side of the map. We're going to put the lobby right square in the middle. And this is going to be the blue side. Same player start. You drag the same one in. Rotate it, orient it how you want it to be. And then change it over to be the blue team. And then same procedure. You just, put these in here at random on the blue side of the map. Now, at this point, this is a playable level, for this template, this is a playable level, meaning everything functions. So now I come in here and I can pick the red team. It picks one of these spawn points that are designated for the red team at random. And then, of course, you can change over to the blue team. It'll do the same thing. Look at all the blue team spawn points and pick one of them at random and spawn you there. Or alternately, you can then just go into the lobby, which we've talked about. It's not a traditional lobby, but it's an area you can congregate players and disable their combat, where they can just run around in an underground bunker or way up in a spaceship that you can't get in or out of except for the menu. Now, the only way that you can change your class is by the character station, right? So if I bring this menu up, you guys could change this if you want. Like, you could make it where you can change your class at will, but I chose not to do that, right? I created an object for you to have to use in order to change your class. You can pick your class when you initially join, but after that, you have to go find you one of these stations, go into the station to change the class that you want to be. But you guys could just as easily change this menu around and make it where you can change it at will anywhere, from anywhere in the game. You can just pick your new class. Okay? And so with that being the case, then that means that you will need a character station, right? So you drag that blueprint into your level, position it, and these are team-based, right? So if you don't set the team for the character station to the right team, you can't use it. So in other words, if I was to spawn in here and try to use this station, it ain't gonna let me do anything because this is designated as a lobby team station, which it's not really supposed to have a lobby team station, but you could put one if you wanted to. You just have to make sure you're on the lobby team when you do it. But same as with the team starts here, you just make sure that you set this to be for the correct team. And then you put one on the blue side. Same exact blueprint. You just drag you in a new one and say, okay, this one is going to be for blue team. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. So now I can spawn in here. I don't like this class. I go in this little station and I pick this dude instead. Right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is literally it, right? So even though this seems like a very simplistic template, behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff happening here. And, you know, this is a perfect template to learn how all this stuff was achieved by buying this little cheap $5.99 template, going in and looking at all the blueprints and seeing how all this stuff is scripted and works and talks together. And works in multiplayer too, by the way. And so my templates, guys, are not like others, mostly. My templates are designed for a few things. One is to take a very simple demonstration of a known mechanic that you guys have encountered in numerous different games and put it in a simplistic form so that you guys can go in there and look through all these blueprints, read all the comments, and see how I achieve this. The other purpose of these templates are for you guys to start from right here and do what I did. Get rid of the stupid Infinity Blade characters and put in your legitimate characters that are going to be for your factions. And start building your combat system right on top of this template. Changing him over to use weapons, right? Changing his animations out. And, you know, building your weapon actor to put onto the character. Making it, the teams are already implemented, so where you do your damage, you would just say, okay, well, if it's the red team is equal, if the person that shot me was the same team that I am, don't do any damage, and if it's not, damage him, right? So all the team stuff is already set up in here to work, and you guys can look through some of this stuff and see how all that stuff is set up, and there might be some other videos in the future kind of demonstrating me building some stuff on top of one of these little cheap templates that I have created. But I do have another template that is submitted to the UE4 marketplace. It might be months before it's actually able to be purchased. That does take a lot of this stuff and actually put it into a first-person shooter template. So it's a team-based first-person shooter template with turrets, auto turrets, team-based auto turrets, team-based pickups, some weapon systems and all that stuff. So look for that in the future. It's going to take a while for it to go through the process, but it is submitted. And then that will be able for you guys to look at how I set up a first-person shooter team-based template. Not using a camera on the head either. It's a legit 3-mesh first-person view. You got arms, lower torso, and a full body mesh. So that'll be something that's cool. And that's essentially it, guys. I mean, literally, that's this template in a nutshell. So if you're looking to build a class-based, team-based game with different visuals based on the teams that you happen to be, this is the template for you to start from, or at a bare minimum, tear apart and implement into your project, right? So that you can, add this type of mechanics to your project if you choose to. But I will tell you guys, if you're planning on buying this template and just migrating it into another template that you already have, I'm not saying that you can't do it, but it's not an easy process because these things have to talk and communicate with each other. So if you're trying to take what I've done and put it into another project that already has a character blueprint running around, you're likely going to have a lot of complications getting all this stuff corrected so that it works good. So my suggestion would be the far better method would be to diagnose and understand how this works and then implement it into your larger project that you already have a lot of stuff in, right? That would be the better route. So let me go ahead and bring Chad over here real quick. I did notice some of you guys showed up. So, hey, Oni, what's happening? Hello, Ripper Junkie. John, you are one live streaming maniac today. Well, I had some free time today, so I needed to get these videos made because the products are for sale, and I haven't even made the instructional videos yet. So I had to get this done. There's been a lot going on around here with my mother and all that, so I'm not going to hash that out, but I had some free time today to try to hurry up and get these done. Ripper Junkie, hey John, I know it's out of topic, but do you know how to make the character climb ledges? I've never set that type of mechanic up, so no, unfortunately no. I did do a cover shooter type template for someone one time, but that's been several years ago, and I swore that if I ever finished that I would never be interested in building that kind of mechanics again. And that would probably be very similar to how that would be done. It involves creating trigger boxes that when you get into the trigger box, it positions the character and triggers an animation to make him look like he's actually climbing up a wall, when in actuality it's movie magic and smoke screens and he's really not, right? So there's a lot of trickery and IK and stuff involved in that kind of stuff. So that is not a easy task to do, but I wouldn't be very much assistance doing that other than what I just mentioned. I would imagine that it's done with IK, root motion, and trigger boxes, right? So when you get to this trigger box, take away control from the player and make it do an automated process of animation and IK to make him look like he actually grabbed a ledge and pulled himself up. Something similar to that's probably how that works. Let's see here. I remember you said it was hard to do the ledge climbing system in your World War Z live stream, but I was just wondering if you knew how to do it. I'm sure that I could do it. The better question is, would I do it? And the answer to that is no. Same as with prone. I could probably make a decent prone system for a game, but I just think that that mechanic is convoluted and useless. I'm not playing a game where I have to crawl around on my belly. Forget it. And, you know, I'm not saying that ledge climbing type games are terrible, but why don't you think out of the box and do it this way instead? Fuck this ledge climbing stuff and give his ass a grappling gun that he can shoot, latch it on, and it yanks his ass up onto there. And if that ain't good enough for you, fuck all that stuff and give him a jetpack so he can just fucking fly up there instead of having to climb. That's just the way that I look at things, guys. I mean, honestly, I look at simplistic ways to accomplish the same type tasks. But you know, if you're building a cover shooter, there really ain't no way to get around that except build a cover shooter. If you're building a wall running parkour ledge climbing game, there really ain't much that you can do except build that. But I would suggest to you that it's not a good idea to just keep copying something that already exists, right? It's like zombie games as an example. We've got a million zombie games. We don't need another one. I don't care what your idea is. It's a fucking zombie game. We don't need another one, right? Now, if you want to make it where you play as the zombie and you're killing the Marines instead of the other way around, maybe we could talk, but we don't need another zombie game. We don't need another Tomb Raider game, right? We already got this ledge climbing, wall crawling, Spider-Man induced. Think out of the box and do something different. Like do Indiana Jones taking his whip and whipping a ledge and pulling himself up ledges instead of the, oh, look, you climb up the ledge and then you pull yourself up and then you're on top of the rock. Screw that. It's all been done to death. Do something different. Let's see here. Before you go, may I suggest leaning and aim down sight logic. I wouldn't be interested in doing aim down sights the way that people do it these days, because I find it annoying at best, and at worst, it makes me hate the game. So if you're talking about an aim down sight system where it actually moves the gun to the center of the screen and you're looking through the little peephole, I would never, under any circumstances, create a game that had that mechanic in it, period. It's annoying, and I can't stand it. And so the only other type aim down sight stuff that I do and have done is, you know, like old school aim down sights, where basically it just moves the gun up. It makes it look like he's looking down sights. And basically you just change the field of view and maybe, you know, shorten the spring arm. You lerp it so that it looks like you're zoomed just a little bit, but you're not looking down the peephole iron sight of a gun. That is the most annoying mechanic I have ever seen in my entire life. For reference, see Battlefield games, right? That's one of the main reasons I don't play Battlefield games. I fucking hate having to aim down the sight and actually aim the gun. Give me a crosshair that is semi-decently visible, that when I put that on something, I shoot and it hits it. How about that? That's the way I like it. Let's see here. Haha, that's nice. The thing is, I'm creating a game that covers some of the Little Nightmare mechanics. Well, like I said, I'm not damning that. If your game requires that kind of stuff, that's cool. But it's just not something that I don't like games like that, so I don't even bother trying to make games like that. Devanus Music, hey man, hey. But I totally agree with you. I'm trying to think out of the box and testing some different mechanics that do not involve climbing. Yeah, there's plenty of ways to accomplish what climbing does without actually climbing, right? Like grappling hooks, teleport beacons, right? Like make it where you can project yourself to an area instead of actually having to climb there. So like if it's an obstacle course that you got to get across, you know, make it where you throw a little beacon out and it will teleport you to where the beacon is or whatever. There's plenty of cool ways to, you know, do lots of verticality in a game without actually having to rely on climbing mechanics like ladders and, you know, that kind of stuff. Make a tutorial, how make a game like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. No, I wouldn't be interested. See, here's the thing. And I'm not trying to be a dick here. I'm not trying to recreate a game that already exists, right? My goal has always been to, you know, for my own personal game, my goal has always been to create my own vision of a game. I'm not trying to make Fortnite, right? I'm not trying to make PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I'm not trying to remake Rust. So You know, I constantly see on the forums people that are doing recreations of games. You know, there's nothing really wrong with that. If that's your cup of tea, well, then so be it. But here's a very serious question that you guys should ask yourself. If you're going to make a PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds clone, why? Do you think there's any way possible that you're going to be able to create a game as good as PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds to convince the players of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds to come play your shittier version of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds? And the answer to that is no, right? So then you have to ask yourself, well, then what is the point of making this game? Are you trying to make a game just to make a game? Well, if you are, well, then that's cool. But, you know, I'm trying to make a game to be successful and make $1 bajillion. That's what I'm trying to do. And the way not to do that is to try to create a game that already exists, except for a shittier version of it, right? So in other words, if you're trying to remake Fortnite, nobody's going to come play your shittier version of Fortnite just because it's similar to Fortnite, right? It's not going to happen. You have to think out of the box, come up with something new, something different, something interesting, and you also have to keep your scale in mind. It took millions and millions of dollars and hundreds of people for them to create Fortnite. You're not going to build that 3 hours on the weekend as a hobby in your mom's basement, right? It's not going to happen. So scope is important. Have realistic expectations, and don't keep retreading everything that already exists just because it happens to be the most popular genre of the moment, right? Because that's not a way to success. Okay, and Asman says, rip aim down sights then. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. That's just not something that I'm interested in doing. My cat died at the vet from diabetes a few days ago, by the way. She was very sick, so it's for the best for the cat to let her go. I'm sorry to hear that. You know, pets are awesome companions, and anytime something goes wrong with your pet, it's almost as if it's wrong with a family member. So I totally get that, and I'm sorry to hear that. Ripper Junkie, well said, John, well said. Something different like laser tag, which I'm developing. Yeah. Anything that is not something that's readily already available and popular, right? That's what you guys should be doing, right? Like, you know, and somebody actually stole this idea from me, by the way. I'm not going to mention any names here, but I said a lot of times, someone asked me one time in a live stream, well, of course he did, right? But that's not the way. I mean, I'm painfully obvious, guys. I really am. And, you know, I try to be nice and stuff to everyone, but remaking games is not the way, right? You're not gonna be successful just trying to remake shit, right? You're just not. Is it fun? Is it cool? Yeah, probably, but you're not gonna become the next, you know, multi-million dollar game studio by rehashing and recreating the same shit that already exists. If you want a real life example of that, see Hi-Rez, right? Because Hi-Rez does that kind of thing, and they barely struggle to make it through anything, right? That's why all their games get abandoned in 3 months. They scrap it and go on to something else. It's because they're trying to create clones of shit that already exists. Similarly to how Smite was their version of League of Legends. You know, I don't remember what their other game is, but they've had an Overwatch clone, right? I don't remember what the hell that was called, but it died on arrival, basically, because it was a shittier version of Overwatch, right? So making clones, guys, I can't stress that enough. That's not the way to success. If a professional game studio such as Hi-Rez can't do it, there's no way in hell we can do it, right? So just keep that in mind. Be different, be unique, be something different. But anyway, what I was trying to say was I had an idea stolen from me. So somebody approached me one time in a live stream asking me about helping them make a zombie game. And I said that zombie games have already been done to death. I don't care what your idea is. It's already been done, believe me. But what I hadn't seen was where you actually got to play as the zombie and your goal was to survive the human apocalypse, right? Because what happens? Zombie game, zombies are trying to attack you. You've got Marines and machine guns, and you just blow the zombies all to hell. Reverse that, right? So that you're the zombie trying to survive the human apocalypse. That might be something that might be interesting. But just doing another, oh, look, a horde of zombies. No. And anyway, somebody stole that idea and they were trying to create something just as similar as that. And of course, it's going nowhere, right? Because they're a bunch of blowhards that really don't know come here from Sikkim. And I'm not going to, talk about them publicly, but you guys could probably figure it out if you tried hard enough. Okay, so Nintendo usually do that, create the same Mario game. It's always different and fun. John, there is a game where you get to play as the zombie, but it's low quality, right? Well, it might exist, right? There might be somebody that tried to do that, but I was thinking, to make sure that your zombies are, not your wandering around, oh, let me eat your brains type zombies. I'm talking about like the zombies in I Am Legend. They're very agile, super strong, zombies, or like the ones in World War Z. They were pretty fast and strong and all that stuff, but, giving them stamina meters and, all that kind of stuff. That would be cool, right? And make them humanish, right? So they're not just mindless zombies wandering around trying to eat brains. They're, I mentioned it. If you guys haven't, there's a movie called Hidden. You guys should watch the movie called Hidden, right? And if you watch the movie called Hidden, you will see where the idea of me wanting to try to do a game where you actually try to survive the human apocalypse came from. I won't ruin the movie for you guys, but you guys should go watch a movie called Hidden. And it's got that twist to it. So with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys take care. For those of you who haven't bought these templates, you should go buy them because they're awesome. And that helps support my endeavors here on the YouTubes and elsewhere. And with that, we will see you guys in another video in another time. Have a good one, fellows.